Hi, this is Michael Uslan. You're listening to Batman on Film.
We're riding through Gotham with the podcast crew. That's in us up, yeah, we're on the move. Talking Batman tales, we're telling what's true. Gotham Knights breaking down each clue. TBOF, bring the heat. Talking Batman ain't that sweet. Tune in for the crime and lore. Batman nation, we want more. Laugh, the Bane's mighty roar, Arkham secrets and so much more. Dive into shadows, legends reborn through the darkest night. The baddest swarm, TBOF, bringing the heat. Talking Batman ain't that sweet. Tune in for the crime and lore. Batman nation, we want more.
The Adventures of Batman.
Welcoming you to the new adventures of Batman.
Welcome to episode 71 of Batmanimation, a Batman on Film podcast revisiting the animated adventures of the Cape Crusader. I'm senior contributor Javi Trujillo, and joining me today is the father of Batman on Film, Bill Jett Ramey. How was your Father's Day, Bill?
See what you did there.
Yeah.
Well, Batman on Film didn't get me anything, but
That jerk.
well, I get enjoyment from Batman on Film. It was fine. How about yours?
It was good. I had to celebrate a day early because I had work.
Okay.
And the kids and I went to go see a Fathom event screening of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Okay.
And then went out to the new Chewy's. It's not, I say new, it's maybe less than a year old, but I'd never been there. And it was very odd. It was very, I feel like it could fit inside like the original Austin Chewy's, like threefold. Like it just felt really tiny. But it still has like the motifs of like the Mil Pescado bar and Elvis stuff. When you go into the lobby, there's portraits surrounding the whole area, and they're all different celebrities, but they're in Elvis jumpsuits.
Oh,
so it still kind of has like an Elvis motif. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I meant to take a picture and I forgot. Like there's Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Freeze in an Elvis jumpsuit.
Mm-hmm.
You know. So
I remember when Chewy's, there was the original one in Austin.
Yeah.
And then the one in Houston in the River Oaks area in Westheimer. That was it. And then now they are this is going on a Chewy's tangent, but I think once they began to franchise out, they lost the special quality about them. I still like Chewy's, but
Jalapeno Ranch, man.
Yeah, but once
that's my kryptonite.
Yeah, I just remember when they were still very exclusive, I guess is the best word. All right. And they were Texas thing. Now they're in all sorts of other states.
We had one we had a few in Arizona that kind of had the similar style, but it was a totally different restaurant. Like it wasn't connected, but it I don't know. It was weird. Totally different menu, but kind of had the vibe. It was, I don't know what it was, but
so it's like these
they went out of business. They had some kind of, the owners were involved in some kind of criminal enterprise. And
so this was kind of like the Buc-ee's thing where you have these fake Buc-ee's that, they don't go by Buc-ee's. If you don't know what Buc-ee's is, it's a Texas thing. They're spreading out. There's different states now, but just get on the Google machine. BUC apostrophe EES. it's like people like they'll have these gas station stops, like a Bucky's, usually gas stations, and they're kind of want people to think they are a Bucky's,
Yeah.
and they're like the logo is similar, but it may be like a raccoon or some other
Okay.
animal, and the
Yeah.
name is similar, so like Bucky sues them left and right whenever
Spell
they
it with the
pop up.
Y or something.
Yeah, it's they'll have names that are similar. So yeah. Anyway, that's enough of that. I could go.
That's
I was about to go on a Whataburger tangent because I'm not happy that they're not exclusive to Texas anymore. And there was one in Las
I
Vegas that
mean,
it blew my
they
mind.
haven't been, were they ever exclusive to Texas? Because I mean,
Oh
growing
yes,
up in Tucson, we had a few Whataburgers. They weren't
yeah.
as plentiful, but I mean, I'm talking like as early as the 80s, we had Whataburger in Arizona. So they've been
I get
franchised for
see
a while.
they sold. This is relatively recently, and they were based in San Antonio, I believe. They
Okay.
sold to a Chicago company, and that's when they really started to branch out the franchises.
Yeah.
So I saw one in Las Vegas. I was like, what? You know, I'm just Texas centric. All right. I'm stopped. Let's go. Let's ride.
Those are our tangents for the
Yeah,
episode.
there's your witty banter for the
That's
day.
exactly. Well, today we're shining the bat signal on Beware the Batman. Airing August 3rd, 2013, Safe is the fourth episode of season one, or AKA the only season. The episode was directed by Sam Liu with a story written by Mark Banker. And of course, we have Anthony Ruvivar as Batman, Finola Hughes as Lady Shiva, Sumali Montano as Tatsu Yamashiro, JB Blanc as Alfred Pennyworth, Scooby-Doo's Matthew Lillard as Dr. Jason Burr, James Remar as Silver Monkey. So, per IMDb, the plot, Bruce Wayne announces the prototype of a device capable of solving the energy crisis. This draws the attention of the League of Assassins. When Silver Monkey attacks Wayne Manor, it is up to Alfred and Katana to keep the assassin at bay. So, all right, let's get into it. The episode
Okay,
opens.
Javi, I got it.
Yes.
My OCD couldn't handle it. So
Okay.
Whataburger was founded in Corpus Christi, not San Antonio, but San Antonio is where they were centered. Um, they by 1959 they had the first Whataburger outside of Texas opened in Pensacola, Florida.
Oh, wow.
And then through the 60s and 70s and 80s, they were in Texas, Florida, Tennessee. And yeah. Okay. Okay. That's it. It's a Texas company. I was ignorant to the fact that they were outside of Texas early on, but whatever. I had to look it up. So I'm
Does
sorry to
Corpus
interrupt.
does Corpus have a museum?
A Whataburger
Like,
museum?
yeah.
I don't know.
Or
Do
maybe
they?
or
Is
maybe
that?
they just have like the first one, so that's like a
Yeah.
special location. I feel like Jack went recently and told me something
Okay.
about it.
Interesting.
I'll have
Yeah.
to I'll look it up.
Okay.
But the episode opens at a Wayne Industries press announcement at night, and Bruce is introducing Dr. Jason Burr, who's made an ion cortex that will help create a global energy surplus. Ninjas attack the podium as soon as Dr. Burr begins his presentation. Bruce leads Dr. Burr and Tatsu to the limo, which he proclaims as a tank. And when Burr falls, Bruce orders Tatsu to help him as he proceeds to the safety of the limo. How do you feel that Bruce handled this situation?
I mean, it was Batmanish, right?
I Here's the thing, like I thought it was funny that Bruce was very Batmanish. He's like trying to get everyone out of
Yeah.
there, and obviously as a Batman fan, we know when Bruce is like, "Hey, go help this guy. I'm going to go to the safety of the limo." Like we know he's not being a coward. He's going into the limo so he can
Yeah.
change into Batman and come back, which he does. But you have to think from like the characters' perspectives. Bruce is like, this is a tank, and he just kind of like leaves the dude and runs away. And like it's not a good look for him as Bruce Wayne, but we all know that this is what he does, right?
Yeah.
So it feels very in character, but
I think this series, it never really leaned on the aloof playboy Bruce Wayne.
he's
Bruce Wayne
very
was
active.
yeah, he's always very active in the city socially and business wise. So I didn't think anything really of how that played out other than maybe when you brought it up is that could he found a safer place to bring the guy? But I guess not. I mean, would he really have this guy come to Wayne Manor with all the Batman stuff there? But because you get in a situation like in Batman Forever where Chris O'Donnell falls through the
Right.
what was the room he would fill? It was China. No, that's Silver Room. Was Silver Closet. But anyway, he had Katana there, he knew who was going to be his bodyguard, so she wouldn't let him get anywhere he shouldn't be. So I think I'm overanalyzing this. I just thought it was fine.
Yeah. But it's one of those instances where, not a good look for Bruce Wayne to the public,
Yeah,
but definitely a very Batman thing to do. Similar to like the Dark Knight, where he's running away in the penthouse and those people
yeah,
are fooling around. They're like, "Oh, you've got a panic room," and then he just leaves
yeah,
them outside.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So, uh, Dr. Berg gets very clingy to Tatsu after the rescue, and Bruce decides to put the good doctor into protective custody at Wayne Manor. And we then get the typical bad guy scene of the baddie dealing with the henchman who's failed. And we also get introduced to Silver Monkey. Now, he first appeared in the comics in Detective Comics 685, which was cover dated May of 1995. Are you familiar with him?
I was not. I learned something again today. I didn't know he was a originated in the comic books. So there you go.
Yeah, he stood out to me for this show because a lot of the influence comes from like late 70s, early 80s, like the whole Batman and the Outsiders type of era where we've got, Katana and um, Talia al Ghul
Yeah,
and but then there's also a good dash of like Morrisonian stuff thrown in with Pig and Toad and
yeah,
well, I guess who else have we seen? Anarchy was like a late 80s, early 90s. So I guess he
yeah,
does kind of fit in with that. But Um, I always think of him. There was a crossover between like Detective, all the Bat titles and Green Arrow, where it was kind of like who was like the best martial artist in the DCU, and like it was going to be decided at the end of the storyline. And he was in that story, if I'm not mistaken.
okay.
Um, and it was the Connor Hawk Green Arrow at that point, so late '90s, early 2000s.
Um,
But
this episode, you talking about the influences, it it felt very Nolan to me in a way. And
okay,
it was almost, had a little Bond-esque vibe.
yes, I was going to bring that up later. Yeah,
And we know Chris Nolan is a fan of the Bond series, and there's a little Bond in his Batman, and there's a little Batman in Bond, the Daniel Craig Bond. That's another thing we went down that road before. I won't try to get off on that tangent, but it felt like a first cousin to Batman Begins in a way,
yeah, I could see that.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. And tangent again, did you see the rumors this week? Someone put out a Bond 26 director update rumor, and one of the people Amazon is looking at, they say, is Jonathan Nolan,
Hmm.
who got credit on Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises,
Yeah.
and a bunch of other of his brother's stuff as well. But
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
he's one of like five people allegedly they're
Okay. Yeah.
talking or looking at. So
He worked uncredited on Batman Begins, but and then got credit for Dark Knight and Rises. But yeah, look, I like Nolan. I've met Jonathan. He's cool. If he got the gig, I'd be fine. I don't know if
he's
he
directed some
directed.
TV and stuff, like
Yeah,
Westworld,
yeah. I don't know
which
if
he was involved
I was
in.
about to say I don't
So
think he's directed anything film wise that
I don't
big.
think so.
But I mean, at some point, you got to get
Got
you got
pull
to
the
jump in the
Band-Aid off.
water. I
Yeah,
mean, Chris hadn't directed anything that big when he got Batman Begins.
not really.
Yeah,
The following Memento are pretty small, pretty intimate movies. So,
yeah.
but that's Silver Monkey, and what I appreciate is how this show goes for the not the well-traveled route. You know, Silver Monkey being one of them. He's not Joker or Riddler or Mr. Freeze. So,
Hmm.
um,
It
Alfred
seems
shows Doc.
like just thinking about again with the martial arts and League of Assassins in this case. I always want to call it because of Batman Begins. They're always
League of
I
Shadows.
League of, I know the League of Assassins predates the League of Shadows, but um and the 70s vibe that definitely the comics had to be influenced by all the like the kung fu movies, all the martial arts movies that were big in the 70s to introduce ninjas and all that, all the martial arts stuff back then. So it's it's kind of interesting sometimes to see how other things and other forms of media and pop culture can influence us or each other. Whatever's cool at the moment,
Yeah,
we tend to see in other forms of copycat in a way, or trying to jump in on the wave of popularity.
for sure. Yeah, it's definitely all connected,
Yeah,
as we say around here.
yeah,
So Alfred shows Dr. Burr the defenses of the manor, with Burr being kept under the watchful eye of Tatsu. What did you think of his repeated attempts at getting her
that's the only
affections?
thing that annoyed me about this episode.
Okay, okay.
I thought
Yeah.
it was annoying, and yeah, it was annoying.
As the kids would say, it's cringe.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay,
I
I'll
could
go with that.
I haven't shown it to the kids in a while, so I haven't gotten their up-to-date impressions, but
Yeah,
he's very desperate and very clingy. And if I'm remembering right, because it's been a couple months since I've watched ahead on the show, but
hmm
I think we get more of him and things happen. But yeah, he's something. Let's just say
I
that
mean, yeah, they could have.
he's
Well,
trying really hard,
yeah, there you go, there you go.
you know.
And I think he was supposed to be likable but annoying on purpose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
And it's not like Matthew Lillard does a bad job or anything,
no, no,
but
no, nothing against him. It's
yeah,
he's just voice acting what's on paper.
yeah, that's what's on the script, and I just ugh.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Batman goes to investigate the lab and finds ninjas, and combat leads to a motorcycle chase. So this isn't the first time we've seen any vehicular action on the show, but you ever notice how empty the streets are?
Yes. Yeah. There's a few things animation wise. I'm sure there's a few things with the animation. I think it's overall pretty darn good, but there's some things that kind of bug me sometimes, like walking when they walk. Sometimes their arms are just straight down by their sides, you know.
Yeah,
Um, and then like that, I mean, it would just cost. It would sit. I mean, the bottom line is it would cost more money to include, more to the
assets.
animation. Yeah,
Yeah.
to have it full of people or full of cars or whatever. It's not. It's not. Yeah, it's noticeable, but it's not anything that ever like. Well, that this makes it suck. To
Right.
put it
Yeah.
to just to be say it slang wise. So, but yeah,
Well, it's
I
like
noticed.
it's it's animation,
Yeah,
but it's not the typical animation of where, they just hand draw in shapes or whatever.
yeah,
Like it's something that they have to spend the time and create, and I feel like having to populate it probably would be even more time consuming and
yeah,
using more, those digital assets to put it in place. But it's very weird because like this Gotham a lot of times just feels so empty. And
yeah.
especially at night where you would think there'll be, criminals about or
It's
vehicles
and
parked on
it's
the side of the road even, and that's not
yeah,
even the case.
and it's not
Everything is
just
just very stark.
it's cost is one thing, but also time. The
Yeah.
time, getting these things out or television. It's a series. It's not a one-off movie or something like that. Whereas, yeah, I just go back. Yes, I noticed, but it never had bothered me enough to where it made me dislike the series.
And the show cuts back and forth between the manor and what's going on with Batman at this point. And as it turns out, one of the extra security guards at the manor is really Silver Monkey, who takes out the legit security and lets even more ninjas in. One thing that occurred to me, does he look like Agent Smith from The Matrix to you?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I knew he reminded me of something, and that was it. Yeah,
So after all that, Batman calls Alfred and has him activate the failsafe protocol and to get Bird to the panic room. Now, after the Zdarsky run, mentioning a failsafe protocol, did that trigger you on your recent
no,
viewing?
and I did take note of that. Went okay. This they did. Here's fail safe before fail safe in the comics. I know they're completely not related, so but it did remind
Yeah.
me of fail safe. Yeah,
I'm surprised we never got a McFarlane figure at this point from that
thank
run.
goodness. Yeah, thank goodness.
I, I know you and like Pete especially were not
You
fans of
know,
that, but
I am surprised hasn't been one. To be perfectly honest, who knows? They're still making stuff, even though I know their
yeah, because
contract's not out. It's not up just yet, but
yeah, I think it ends this year, right?
we got to get those cows. I need more movie cows.
Yeah, he still hasn't done Forever or Batman and Robin, right?
It's not a forever. I'm talking about I'm like the
The
mini
mini
ones.
ones. Yeah,
Yeah,
because the other
the
ones
Dark
are
Knight is a
cool,
full
but
size, right?
I
Isn't
thought
there a
they did
Dark
a
Knight?
mini of that one too.
Did they?
I thought so.
I've got Begins. I've got Begins and Detective Comics 27, not movie, and Batman 89. That's the ones I've got.
Those are really cool. I don't have the space for them right
I
now.
am here. I
So
hear you. I'm hearing you.
yeah.
Okay. Sorry again.
Um, so going back to the manor with the failsafe protocol, lots of like blue lasers come out and towers raise with like cannons of some sort. Does this feel like overkill to you?
A little bit. Um, I mean, it's over the top,
Yeah.
and you think, okay, Batman. This is where I kind of got like Bond type vibes, with the stuff like, the more that kind of stuff. And then the I mean, he's wealthy enough to have
Yeah.
a
Advanced
pretty
security.
yeah, but like this was like advanced security, almost delving into like sci-fi-ish futuristic stuff in a way. I'm sure that stuff nowadays is probably all legit, but yeah, maybe a little bit, but it is animated a series, so
Well,
it's okay for it to be a little bit over the top.
when you think of like Batman Returns and he's got those towers on the manor that reflect the
Yeah.
bat signal back to him,
Yeah.
like that's like one thing. This feels like three notches above that.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's here where it feels like really cartoony to me because it
Yeah.
feels like so over the top to have like these massive cannons.
And then he has to, he has to penetrate it. What was it?
Yeah,
20, was it 28,
28.
29%, 28%
Yeah.
chance of success?
The bat computer tells him that he's got the
Yeah.
odds of 28% chance of getting in unharmed, which okay, that's like selling the danger, but on the other hand, part of me is thinking like, does Batman have like a lethal security system then? Like,
Yeah.
and that feels kind of antithetical to who Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah.
That his
Yeah.
security system would there's like a 75% chance it's gonna hurt
Yeah.
someone really bad
Yeah.
or kill them.
Yeah. A little
But
much. A little much.
yeah. But I think the show does a good job here of cutting back and forth between what's going on with Batman and what's going on with Tatsu. How did
Hmm.
you like it?
Oh, I thought they did a good job, like you said, because it made it feel, it made the episode feel longer than it really is.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Because you're telling two different, you're telling one story, but two different parts of the story that are happening at the same
two
time.
different perspectives on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're going back and forth, so it made it feel long. I mean, that's the best way. Longer than what is it? About 20, 22 minutes, 21 minutes, whatever these are. So yeah, I thought they did it well.
And I think it helps build up like a sense of pace and like story tension also.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
we're gonna put a quick pause in this conversation to have a quick word from our sponsors. So as Batman's racing back to Wayne Manor, the Bat Cycle turns into a glider. And it feels like both exciting and very Saturday morning, which is applicable, obviously.
Yeah,
And you talked about like Bond influence earlier, and that's where I think I got the biggest like James Bond influence vibes from like this whole sequence with whatever it's called, the Bat Cycle, the Bat Bike, whatever it is, because he has all these defenses, and it's very reminiscent of like the Aston Martin DB5 from the early Connery movies, and then with the bike then ejecting like this glider or turning into this glider for him to like soar to Wayne Manor. That felt very Moonraker with the
yeah,
boat he has that goes over the falls and out comes this glider. Uh, and it almost, like a dash of like Mission Impossible too, because he's got to get through all these
mm-hmm,
lasers to like fall in
mm-hmm,
and dive. And, it has that Tom Cruise stunt vibe going for it
yeah,
also.
yeah. It it's not something that I would have wanted to see in the Dark Knight trilogy, or
You don't say.
it is something that probably wouldn't fit in the Batman saga. But I certainly could see this in like Batman Forever, a Batman Forever type
Yeah.
Batman film, where
Yeah.
I mean, even in Batman Forever, you had you had the boat that became a sub. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
no, the
bat
plane, the Batwing, whatever the hell it's called in Batman Forever. Yeah, it crashes, it becomes a submarine. I got confused because there is the bat boat that gets blown up, but in that movie, but I thought this is a different. It's this DNA of where the Batman is more with you know comic books and then the popcorn Batman type of movies. Like Forever. I specifically with Forever that I could see it in a movie like that, and it maybe after the saga, the next incarnation of Batman on film may be a little bit more sci-fi friendly, where you can include more gadgets that are
more
of that
fantastic.
ilk. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I feel like this show tries to do like this balancing act between the the grander set, like I said, Saturday morning cartoon aspects of it, to having Batman being very serious
Hmm.
and gritty, and then stuff like Dr. Burr, where it feels like it's aiming more at like, hey kids, isn't he funny?
Yeah.
I feel like it's got all these different elements and layers going on with it. Maybe not necessarily deep layers, but it's not, just surface level, straightforward stuff. Like there's different things at play, and they're trying to bring all these different aspects into it.
Yeah, it's definitely not gritty street level
Yeah,
Batman versus organized crime type of series. It's more popcorny,
yeah,
if that's a word, you know. And it's surprising that you didn't get for having like that this bat glider or whatever in the hell you want to call it, and then the bat bike, and this
that
version
we
of
got
you
a
didn't get any.
figure.
Yeah, you didn't get any merchandise off of this. It's
Yeah,
just odd.
yeah. I mean, but there's that
There was
one
like one figure,
multiversal
right?
figure. Yeah, he was part of some other wave, some other DC line that I think it was Mattel was making. I think it was
Okay.
Mattel back then. Frank will correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, between Batman and the Batmobile and this thing, you got some stuff right there. Then, of course, you always do the variants, and then between you could have Alfred because he has like his little
Mm-hmm.
pulse rifle thing that we see in this
Yeah.
episode. So, and then obviously Tatsu and all the villains. Like it would
Mm-hmm.
have made for a really good wave, and that's the only season we got. But
Yeah.
that you could have sold toys off of this, no problem. It's
Yeah.
really weird. And Silver Monkey, as he's infiltrating the manor, like you find out that he knows Tatsu, saying she'll die for her betrayal. So like there's that layer that we're talking about. There's subtext and history of these characters to kind of balance some of the more fantastical parts out of it. And at one point, he pulls a Rosa Klebb, and a knife edge comes out of his boot, and his attack allows him to steal the Soul Taker's sword from Katana. Uh, did you clock this as the Dark Knight homage? Or are you familiar with From Russia with Love, which had the villain Rosa Klebb pop a knife out
I,
of her shoe and try and kill Connery at the end?
yeah, it's been a while since I've watched that movie, but now you brought it up. Yeah, I mean it's kind of the stuff you would see in a spy movie, right? You'd have
Yeah,
all these, you know, gadgets. It always I know this has completely nothing to do or even close to this, but you remember Beverly Hillbillies? You remember
yeah.
you remember Jethro was obsessed with
He had that
want to be a
that
double knot
episode where
spy,
yeah,
and
he
he'd
tried to
always
make his vehicle like
yeah,
the
and he
Aston
had
Martin.
he had
Yeah.
the hat that it was he put iron in it. It just reminds me, I don't know why I thought of that, but just um, it's spy movie type stuff. With
Yeah.
the blade coming out, or Get Smart when he had all his stuff,
The shoe phone.
the shoe phone and things like that.
Yeah, I have to wonder if they were homaging the Dark Knight or if they were going back to like Bond with the source of it. 'Cause I want to say that's in the book. It's been a few years since I've reread it, but I think that's how if I'm remembering right, the book ends with her popping the knife out of her shoe and kicking Bond, and it's poisoned, and it kind of ends with you thinking he's dead.
Yeah,
Because Fleming at that point was kind of like wanting to break and didn't quite know what to do and
yeah.
wanted to kind of Sherlock Holmes and kind of leave it like, oh, no, he's dead. And then
Okay.
it
Yeah,
was so popular they brought him back in
yeah.
Doctor No. But tangents again. Silver Monkey escapes and Burr rushes to Tatsu's side with the first aid kit. And Batman and Alfred seem just as irritated as I do with him.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's I just appreciated them having that moment of looking at each other and like, this guy, you know,
Yes.
'cause
Yeah.
I feel like most of the audience is on board with them.
Yep.
And Silver Monkey reports to Lady Shiva, and that's the episode.
Hmm.
So overall, like, what did you think? What was the highlight for you?
I enjoyed it. Like I said before, it kept me interested for 20 minutes, um, 20 minutes ish, whatever these are. Um, I going watching it. Of course, you watch it. You haven't watched it in a long time, and then you watch it. It's kind of like that. It feels like the first time because you haven't seen it in such a long period of time, but you start to recall things as it goes along. And I was just struck. I was like, okay, I got a little Batman Begins vibe going on here, and it's kind of, but they both, both Batman Begins and this influenced by the comics, and it felt Bondish. I don't, Bondish, James Bond, spy type thing. I think I said this before. It's like a cousin to Batman Begins. It's kind of something Nolan would enjoy. He likes this kind of stuff. So yeah, it was okay. It was okay plus.
Okay, plus.
And I
There you go.
like I do like the character of Katana in this series.
Yeah. If you compare, I mean, we've talked before, like, how do you make each iteration stand out? And not having Robin in this,
Yeah.
the Batman made itself different by doing Batgirl and then doing
Hmm.
Robin.
Yeah.
And Brave and the Bold had Dick Grayson sometimes.
Hmm.
And then so what do you do next? Well, you give him a different partner.
Hmm.
And she really does feel more like a partner than a sidekick
Yes.
as we go on,
Yes. Yes.
which I
Absolutely.
think is an important distinction. Um, and for me, like the last episode we did was Emperor Joker, which is pretty crazy, and it was Brave and the Bold, so it's got its own sensibilities. But
Hmm.
like this, in some ways, feels cartoonier. I think maybe because of the animation style, um, which kind of makes you feel not that it's realistic looking, but it brings a different vibe to it. And I
Would you
and
say that it's funny when you compare it to Emperor Joker and Brave and the Bold, but this feels more like what you would, the kind of the Saturday morning type of
yeah,
Uber adventure spy gadget, uh, different vehicles, then because you would think that the Brave and the Bold would be that. It's not because Brave and the Bold is, and no knock on where the Batman. Brave and the Bold has way more layers to what it's doing at the same time than this does. It's kind of,
yeah,
this is what it is, what it is. Brave and the Bold is one of those where at first glance it's going to entertain children. I said, children, but it's completely, you know, written for adults as well at the same time. And so
yeah,
I think it's a better Batman series overall, but we're not here to compare. We're just here to talk about this episode of Where the Batman. So again, I liked it. I enjoyed it. It's okay plus. It's got that um I think there's the aspect of there's this continuing storyline all the time.
yeah.
They're not really self-contained, you know?
It's serialized. There's an overarching
Absolutely.
story going on here,
Yeah.
and we build on it each episode.
So it's kind of hard. I don't know if hard's the word, but you know what I mean? I'll just say it's kind of hard to enjoy it as much as you can other episodes of other series because of that because you go, okay, I got to go to the next one, and what happened
It
before, you know?
it's definitely more of like a bingeable show because if you want
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
more out of the story, you've got to watch like
You can't
a
just pull
handful
out,
of them.
like, I want to be entertained for 20 minutes or so. I can go put in Brave and the Bold and watch,
Yeah.
Music Meister. And the same thing with Batman the Animated Series. You can go put in an episode of Batman the Animated Series. Even the Batman was like the Batman got a little bit more serialized toward the
Yeah.
like that fifth season. But yeah, this was what was different about this show. And I get it, they were doing something different.
This works better having the knowledge fresh in your mind of what came before,
Yeah,
which isn't like to your point, like that's not something you really needed to worry about with the other shows. I
yeah,
could, randomly go on to Max or pick out a Blu-ray and pop it in and just put on an episode.
yeah.
But this really benefits from having the backstory in your mind. And where I was going with like comparing it to the last episode we watched, um, there's something about like the animation style where it just feels a little more tactile and having the characters the way they move sometimes they feel very gummy,
Yeah.
like they just kind of move differently and that feels more like a kid playing with an action figure and they just kind of move a little unnatural compared to like a traditional animation. It's more fluid and to me it makes it feel more Saturday morning cartoonish
It's
and it heightens like the more kiddie aspects of this episode to me, like with Dr. Burr and the way he moves.
a lot of the most of the episodes of the series, the different Batman series that we cover here are ones that I can say, okay, if you haven't seen this one, you really got to go watch it. You'll enjoy it. You can just go watch it, enjoy it for 20 minutes. With Beware the Batman, the only way I would even recommend it would be like, okay, you got to watch from episode one and then kind of just binge through it because
Yeah.
it's serialized. There's not you can't just pick a random episode and watch it. Some may be more self-contained than others, but there's always seems to be that continuing storyline, and then it really doesn't have a conclusion at the
Yeah,
end.
unfortunately.
Yeah, because they pulled the rug on it, pulled the rug, pulled the plug, whatever.
And
220, 221, whatever it takes. You knew that was coming at some point.
that's right. You can mark that off on your BOF bingo sheet there.
Yeah,
And I think it's safe to say at this point we're out of the streaming era where it's like let's revive every property that we have to make a streaming show because now they
yeah,
found out that the budgets really aren't there for that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that moment is past for trying to get any kind of revival for this show, unfortunately.
Sure.
But they just announced this week on the Spider-Man side of things that they're doing a sequel to the 90s show in the comics now.
Oh,
'Cause
okay.
it's a lot easier to do a minute because that ended open-ended as well with like a kind of like a cliffhanger. And it's a lot cheaper to print a comic book than it is
Sure,
to like pay for an episode of
sure.
animation and such. So a lot quicker too.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it, I think. Where can people find you?
Right here, right where you're at. What if you're just, streaming this from Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, there is a website. It's called Batman on Film, batman-on-film.com. So check out everything there, comic book reviews, the Batman Part 2, the coverage of that is going to be heating up here as we progress through the rest of this year, probably starting the late summer, early fall. We'll start hearing some stuff. So it's going to be fun next couple years covering that. And we've got the chapter by chapter podcast series for the Batman films. The Batman is complete. Batman Forever is complete. Batman 89 is one episode shy of being complete. And we're in the midst of Batman Begins with Javi, if you want to
Batman
talk about
Begins
that
has
because
begun.
I'll turn it over to you with your plug. So
Yeah.
that's something you're working on for Batman on Film as we speak.
Yeah, we've got 3 episodes done for Batman Begins, celebrating the 20th anniversary. I was watching something this morning before we recorded, and it made me want to ask you a question that I thought
All
about
right.
mailbagging it, but I'm just going to ask you here.
Okay.
Get you down on wax. What are your opinions of the forthcoming Batman suit from Jorge Jimenez for the new Batman #1 that's coming out after
not
Hush 2?
not a fan.
Yeah, I know
Not a
you're not a
fan.
blue Batman
I'm not.
guy.
It's Here's the thing. It's Batman was always meant to be black. The suit was meant, even when it looked blue, it was supposed to be black. It's like Superman's hair, you
Yeah.
know? And I know they've taken that at some different times in the comics and literally he's a blue Batman, but there's still overall he's always meant to be black. I'm not just not a fan. I don't know. I just get puzzled. Why would Batman wear a blue suit? Why would it be blue? Black makes total sense. I remember
Yeah.
with when Batman 89, and it's the first time we really saw, you know, all black Batman, right?
Yeah.
And there was an interview with Keaton, and he was like, when they were first approached him, and I'm paraphrasing all that, I'm going by old memories from a long ago, but they approached him about Batman, and he said, I can't see myself, I guess his first thing he thought in his mind was like the Adam West suit,
Hmm.
and it tights, and even though the 60 series Adam West was it was a dark blue, but still, there's blue. I'm sure this is what came in Keaton's mind, and he goes, I don't know about this, maybe Joker. I could do Joker, but I don't know, Batman, that suit. And they go, no, you really got to see what we're doing with the suit, and showed him some of the drawings and whatnot, our take on it. And anyway, I don't know even why I brought that up, but black suit Batman is,
black.
yeah. I couldn't fathom Keaton if they did that and the suit was blue, like one of the suits that they were in the Flash. There was one of the Batman
Yeah.
89 suits. They did a blue version.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't get the desire.
So I was watching Batman 66 this morning, the second
Yeah,
Riddler episode, or the second episodes that feature the Riddler.
yeah,
And one on the Bat Belt, it was one of the episodes where you can see that his pouch is really a yellow sponge now that we've got it in Blu-ray in high definition, which I don't, do you know the reason why they put a sponge there instead of making because it's a pouch on some of the suits, but sometimes it's like a yellow sponge with a
I
buckle
don't
attached to it. I've never found out
budget
why they did that.
time
If it
and
was a
budget
movement
restraints.
thing or
I don't know. I
but
gotta figure
there's
that one out.
also in on the pouches their version of the capsules,
Mm-hmm.
like the 70s, capsule belts.
Yeah,
And I noticed that some of them were kind of sitting at a weird angle. And Jimenez does that a lot as he's developed his own Batman style. Like he's given him his own unique belt, and that carries over to this new design where he's kind of got the capsules in the front of the belt, but they're coming in at an odd angle.
okay.
And I was like, I wonder if he's inspired by the West belt a little
Hmm.
bit.
Yeah,
So
it's got kind of a funky bat shaped belt, right?
yeah, it's not not the new 52, the Rebirth one where it had
Yeah,
these kind of spikes coming out of it. I'm like, that would,
yeah.
if you're doing any kind of ab crunch, you'd be impaling yourself on it. But I have to wonder with the way his belt is and that they're bringing in the more blue, if that's indicative of the tone of where they're going to go with having
I've got
not Adam West per se, but more of a superhero-y.
I'm getting the vibe, and just from what few things I heard, that they're going a little. I don't want to know if I want to say Silver Age-ish, Batman, but something more like you just mentioned. I guess away from street level, dark, gritty Batman to more superhero Batman. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure that would be up to,
Maybe like 70s, early 80s, where
job
he
with
would.
my taste. I don't know. Are they kind of this is getting way off tangent. So this has become this has become a social hour. So welcome to the social hour. Are they're renumbering again?
Right. Again.
Fourth time, right? We got a Batman #1 in Batman history.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because we had the original, then
Which annoys
New
me.
52, then Rebirth, and then now this.
Yeah. That annoys me, but that's another conversation. Is it kind of starting from scratch again and going forward, but not completely, not doing like a,
We're not, because they're not,
A
as far as I know,
yeah.
we're not rebooting anything. We're just renumbering for like a new creative team.
Okay. Because I've seen some of the things they've said, like fresh take and new takes on this and that and this character and whatever, and the new suit. I don't know what's going on with to be honest here.
No, we got to get through
see
Hush
soon
2
enough.
first.
Yeah.
So, but I think that, like, there's enough different Batman titles that we'll probably see,
So,
different takes on
last
the
question,
character.
and we can get out of here. Last question for you. Is this the suit that it's just going to be exclusive to Batman? Or is like in Detective, he's going to have this same new suit, or is he going to be wearing?
I would imagine he would carry it across the board for the, quote, in continuity books,
Yeah.
But with stuff like they just announced Second Night, which is the sequel to the First Night, which is, in the late 30s, like we'll get that. We'll still have like a black and gray Batman,
Yeah.
unless the story involves him going to a blue suit at the end of it. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to that
that'll be
as
fun.
well. All right. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop.
You can go to batmanonfilm.com and follow, our Batmanimation episodes, our Batman Begins chapter by chapter. I'm reviewing Catwoman, Batman and Robin Year One. And I've still got my Up to Speed with Wally West YouTube channel and the 007 Files. We've had quite a few good episodes come out, talking with various authors of Bond books, and the Comic Binge, where Chris Clow, former BOF Legacy contributor, and we do a show called Nights Never Die, where we dissect the Grant Morrison Batman run. Also, we've got another series on that called Countdown to Superman, where we're looking at comic book influences that may factor into James Gunn's take of the movie that's coming out next month, which is crazy that we're finally here after all this time. So,
the rubber is fixing to hit the road on that one. We'll see.
Yeah.
How it performs after much discussion and debate, and it's going to be interesting.
I think I've been writing for you now for like 6 years. I think so. And this is like the first Superman movie that's come out in all that time. Solo Superman movie.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty big deal. And it's been 12 years since Man of Steel. So it's hard to believe it's been that long already. Just like, 3 years
I
since
guess
the Batman
because
came
of,
out.
I guess with the television stuff,
Television stuff helps buffer.
It doesn't really seem like there hasn't been. And then Cavill, what was his last appearance? Did
Black Adam,
like a short it's very, very short cameo. So I got to stop.
Yeah.
Superman's coming out. We'll talk about it when it gets here. We'll
That's
talk about
right.
the box office. We'll, go through all that in July. So I'm going to stop. I'll get on another tangent. So let's get out.
All right. Well, from talking about a movie with Rachel Brosnahan, we'll talk about announcer Rachel and have her take us out.
Yes. Rachel!
Thanks for listening to Batmanimation, a BatmanOnFilm.com podcast revisiting the animated TV and film adventures of the Caped Crusader. Follow Batmanimation on Twitter @Batmanimation. Follow BOF on Twitter @TheBatmanOnFilm. Follow Jett on Twitter @BatmanOnFilm. For Jett and Team BOF, I'm announcer Rachel. Batman on Film, authoritative, definitive, the original. Established in 1998.
Our place is built from Batman fans. It's been the run song since '98 began. Roll with the news and all the reviews. It's the go-to place to take the Gotham blues. Got a cape and cowl on deep and high. Batman on film, so glad it's alive. Batman on film, you thrill us so. From Gotham City to the Batmobile roll. Batman on film, ever strong. Feels like home where we all belong. Lights out, we're seeing the latest flick. Nothing like the sight that gives us that kick. We keep it to bail, the icons we hail. Never miss a beat on the bat scene of trail. Turn the page, let the journey begin. Batman been wearing that baby. Where we all been Batman on film. You thrill us so. From Gotham City to the Batmobile roll. Batman on film, living strong. Feels like home where we all belong. In a world full of shadows, you bring light to us all. Every post and follow. Answer the call, Batman on film. You thrill us so. From Gotham City to the Batmobile roll. Batman on film, ever strong. Feels like home